Well, we're in town here with Bagel, who's just wrapping up a 5-week board and train at Bark Brigade. Bagel came to us with a lot of issues we see in the dogs that come for 4, 5, 6 weeks. A very, a behavioral case. He came in with some, I don't want to say severe reactivity, but it was debilitating. So, you couldn't really take him outside the house. He'd be lunging at people. Got a couple minor bites under his belt, nailed some family friends. Couldn't really bring people in the house. He'd resource guard his crate, get really nasty about that stuff. He did get dropped off, day one, and in a muzzle, and it was a bit of a bite risk. But we've taken him through the program and taken him through all the functional obedience we do with all the dogs here at Bark Brigade. Showed him right from wrong, showed him the way a little bit, and have worked on building his confidence around stuff like this by finding stuff he likes to do. And luckily for us, once we broke through his rough exterior shell a little bit, he turns to like praise, food, and most importantly, his ball. So we're gonna play some ball with him while we're down here. And the biggest thing we're looking for with dogs like this that have these behavioral issues is, yes, he has to be responsive. He's got to be obedient with us. Like he does have to follow all his functional obedience to a T when we need him to. But we also just need him to be a dog. We want him to be performing nice behaviors out here. He should be minding his own business, not being reactive with people, not doing any of the impulsive behaviors he used to practice. He should just be able to, exist around, bikes and cars and kids and dogs and all this stuff, and just know how to act and be responsive when we need him to be. So without, further ado, we're going to take him for a little stroll and, get him off leash and see how he does.
Alright guys, so what we're going to do here is a little voiceover of a outing with Bagel. Like we said in the intro, Bagel's a very reactive dog. He has tagged a couple people and usually had to be taken out in his muzzle pretty much anywhere he went. Didn't get a ton of freedom, therefore didn't really get a lot of outlets for all his natural drives he's got as a pretty nice border collie. So what we're doing here is starting with a warm-up. So with these dogs that, have had a history of being reactive, you never totally get rid of the reactivity. And what I mean by is, like, if you don't keep things in check, if you don't set a high bar, there's always going to be the risk of regression. So whenever we take a dog out like this, we want to get him warmed up. We do some loose leash walking, a couple down stays, do some healing, maybe a sit command, a place command, and just make sure the dog's in tune with us. And you don't always have to do this when you have a reactive dog. I have 2 reactive dogs. One of my reactive dogs is a husky. Is more out of arousal. Didn't really have to do much with her other than just break that arousal. Had a very dog reactive Rottweiler. When I first started taking him out and addressing it, I always warmed him up, made sure he was in a good state of mind, just like I'm doing with Bagel here. You get to the point where you're so tight with the dog, and you've done it so many times you don't have to do this. I certainly don't do this with my personal dogs when I take them out. But we've only had Bagel for 5 weeks. He's been kind of running amok his whole life for a couple of years. And this is all like just getting out and being around people and dogs is pretty new to him. So this is how we start our outings with him. We give him a warm-up. We do some obedience. We do it on leash. We get him around some distractions. Make sure all is good in that department. We have that box checked. Once we get the dog into this state of mind where they're compliant with us, they're happy to work for us, ideally we found something that works for them as a motivator. Like for him, it's his ball. He will take food, but really it's his ball, or praise and affection, or a combination of all 3. We can start doing a lot of stuff with the dog. We've made it clear to him he's not allowed to be reactive. Don't get me wrong. This dog's had some pretty severe corrections around that. When he first showed up, he was doing things like, lunging at people, trying to muzzle punch them, being reactive to dogs, guarding his crate, all these things. Once we address those right off the rip, without really the use of any tools or anything, then we start doing the obedience training, get him to enjoy it and find some confidence in it. Then stuff like this becomes possible. I can have this dog on leash, off leash, and we just have some very, very simple rules for him to follow. When he's on leash, don't pull me. This is so critical for these dogs. For any dog in general, but especially if you have a reactive dog or a dog that is able to be aggressive. When you get that respect on the leash, when they're not able to pull you, you get engagement, you get lower arousal, you get a dog that is tuned in with you, that's checking in with you. A dog that is aware of your existence. When we get that, that's the only, we need to get that to have any chance of having the dog be obedient with us. If we're going to throw some obedience at them. If we want any chance of navigating tricky situations, we need them to be able to walk loose leash. It's really, really tempting to let little things go, let them sniff, let them pull you over to say hi to another dog if you think their intentions are nice. But we need to make it so clear to them so they really understand what gets them in trouble, which is the pulling me towards another dog, pulling me towards anything in general. Once we get that, let's do some obedience with them. And we'll do a little warm-up with them, make sure they're able to stay calm, cool, and collected when we're around stuff. I don't need the dog to practice obedience and not be reactive. Not being reactive is the bare minimum. But we do need to have that level of control if we're going to take this dog places, and especially if we're going to have them off leash like we're doing now. Once we've got a dog that is e-collar trained on leash and we've dealt with the reactivity, then it's really easy to remove the leash because they're e-collar trained. The leash is really just there as like a seat belt. It's really just an accessory. And we get them to this point where they can be off leash, and we've taught them how to make good decisions. That's step one. Don't be reactive. Don't lunge at people. Mind your own business. Don't go running up to people. And then we have the functional obedience when we need it. Normally, if I was just taking one of my dogs out, I wouldn't be doing this much obedience. I'd be using it where I need it. If I need to heel past someone, there's a bunch of people coming over, or I see an out-of-control dog, I need to recall them or put them in a down, that's when I would do it. But Bagel, he's only been doing this for 5 weeks, right? So we go through the reps with him, we go through the motions, we make sure it's reliable and it's there when we need it. So I'll put a lot more structure on him right now. And I'll get the owners to do this when they go back too. Like when you take your dog out for the first few months, a lot of structure. Make sure that it's there when you need it. Once you get to that point, where it's really reliable and you can do it, you can start loosening up a little bit and just going for a walk with your dog and using the obedience when you need it. I like to be really deliberate with the obedience. So it's unrealistic for long term for an owner to put their dog under this much obedience all the time and having to watch them on the e-collar and correct them when they make mistakes. I don't like to put the dogs in obedience that much. I'm pretty lazy with my dogs when I take them out, to be honest. If I can teach them to walk by people and not be reactive, so I don't have to put any obedience on them, that's what I'm going to do. Now, if we're in tight and there's other dogs around, people uncomfortable with my dog being off leash, sure, I'll put them in a heel. Make sure everyone sees my dog's under control and, really, really in tune with me. But, for the most part, I just use the obedience when I need to. And when I do it, I really mean it. When I ask him to heel, I'm really asking to pin to my hip and heel and really, really do it. Like an example like this, walking by someone with a dog. Clearly they're veering off the path. Dog's probably a little reactive. I'd put my dog in a heel. Show him, hey, my dog's under control. I don't do it often. When I do, my bar is very, very high. So it's there when I need it and it's reliable. I also probably wouldn't be popping the ball quite as much, for my own dogs or a dog that I was really, really tight with. Bagel, we've only had him 5 weeks. He didn't really know how to play ball when he first got here. It's highly rewarding for him. He's a very insecure dog, so you use play to bring him up. So when I take him out to new places and he's around dogs and people and all those things are a little scary, make him a little uncomfortable, I pop his ball a lot. I'm trying to bring him up. I'm trying to show him that, hey, in this big scary world with all this stuff going on, as long as you pay attention to me and follow my rules, you're good. And all these good things are going to happen. I'm going to pop your ball for you lots. We're going to have lots of fun in these places where you might be a little scared. Yes, I have a high bar. Yes, I have very, very strict criteria that you have to follow in certain situations. But it's very clear. It's very simple. Don't pull me. Don't be reactive. Follow the 5 pieces of functional obedience. Sit down, place, heel, recall when I give them to you, and we're good. You don't have to worry about the people. You don't have to worry about the dogs. Just go over with me and my expectations, and I'll make that a really rewarding, positive experience for you if you follow these simple rules. And this is where a lot of people get messed up when they're dealing with reactive dogs. They think that punishing the dog for reactivity isn't going to work. It's just going to suppress it. And of course it suppresses it. Punishing any sort of behavior suppresses it. But it suppresses it so that we have some wiggle room to start reinforcing the good behavior. If we don't suppress it, we'll never have the opportunity for him to make good choices and us to reward him and start showing him there's another option. So yes, of course we're suppressing it in the beginning. And for some dogs, there'll always be an element of suppressing that desire to be reactive. Bagel, he's a dog that was reactive mostly out of fear and insecurity, so he doesn't have to walk around suppressed all the time. He just needs to do it temporarily to show him that's not a good option for him and start showing him there's better options and that he can be confident in just walking around and following my lead. Certain dogs, if you have a particularly really aggressive dog or a dog who gets kicks out of being reactive, then yeah, there's always going to be an element of suppression, but not with this dog. The other thing where people get mixed up with this is they think that the dog always has to be under obedience like a robot to not be reactive. I switched this dog out of obedience and just free walking constantly throughout this video. I don't need him to be under obedience to not be reactive. I want him to manage his own decisions. When he sees people, you do not run up to them. When you see a reactive dog, you do not engage. When you see any dog, you do not engage. You mind your own business, and you pay attention to me. And when I give you instruction, I need you to follow it. But I don't need the obedience to stop the behavior. There are two separate things, and a lot of people get that mixed up. They really think that, oh, my dog just needs to heel and down with me all the time to not be reactive. I'm going to turn them into a robot. I'm just managing them all the time. No, this dog is managing itself. He is free. He is walking around, making his own choices. Now, when I need him to heel, I need him to heel. When I need him to down, I need him to down. But for the most part, he's free to make his own choices. And usually when I'm using obedience, it's actually for everyone else around us, or just to give him some guidance in a really, really tight scenario. You know, if there's a really reactive dog or a bunch of people that make him uncomfortable, maybe I'll give him some guidance on just how to navigate through that tight spot. But for the most part, it's really for everyone else. If I see a bunch of dogs passing, you know, if I see someone who's a little nervous about my off-leash dog, that's when I'm putting under obedience. And this is what is possible when you make it so clear to the dogs what's acceptable, what's not. You get a strong foundation of functional obedience, or even a dog like Bagel, who's tagged a couple people, showed up in the muzzle, all this stuff that makes him look like way worse of a dog than he really is. You can go for a walk through town, off-leash, not having to worry about it. And to be honest, I don't think I really used the e-collar that much in this video. You know, we did a lot in the proofing early on, but now he's just responsive to the verbal. And, you know, he's just happy to be there, which is what you want at the end of the day.